Welcome to Flight Path, the weekly podcast for the Tern community, where we share what's new, what's next, and what's coming to the platform you're helping us build. Kicking off season 2, we're focusing on group travel, a big theme this quarter. But that's just one part of our journey. We're also rolling out features for agencies, tackling your most requested updates, and yes, shipping product updates every single week. So join Tern's R&D leadership team, Molly, our head of product, David, Tern CEO and co-founder, and Brad, head of design, as well as an occasional special guest, as we bring you into the loop on everything happening at Tern. We're proud to be the only travel technology platform committed to weekly releases, and we couldn't do it without this incredible, engaged community. This podcast is for you, to keep you informed, inspired, and a part of the process. So if you're ready to stay connected with the latest from Tern, hit subscribe and join us every Friday on Flight Path. Let's keep building Tern together. Welcome back, everybody, to the Flight Path podcast. If you are joining for the first time, I think we've got some new subscribers after the webinar. My name is David, CEO and co-founder of Tern. As always, joined by Brad, head of design, and Molly, head of product, to talk about all things Tern and R&D and the progress that we're making. So if you are tuning in maybe for the first time, go ahead, click that like button, click that subscribe button, leave a comment, let us know what you think of everything that we're talking about. It's really fun to kind of see the engagement just continuing to grow as a part of this community. Brad, Molly, big week this week. We had the groups webinar, which has been just like, I feel like it's just the perfect way to kind of culminate 2024. So many things that are kind of going into that, which we'll talk about. But we'll kick off with the usual week in review. And Molly, you wanna get us started?
Yeah, like you said, it's been a really big week. We not only had the webinar, but there were 3 different features we were all trying to close out this week ahead of the webinar. So we shipped room selections on Monday, which we talked about a lot last podcast. We shipped the end-to-end group sign-up flow on Tuesday, along with an improved account creation flow, which we'll get into a little bit later, that we highlighted on the webinar itself. So just getting all of those tested and documented and shipped was a big undertaking. And then there's a big chance I'll be on maternity leave when everyone gets back from the holidays. So I've just been really busy making sure the team feels good about all the projects that we're working on while I'm out, which there's a lot of things we plan to build, as we talked about in the webinar. So exciting stuff.
Got even bigger 2025 planned than 2024. And so lots of prep work to hit the ground running. Brad, what was your week like from a design perspective?
Yeah. So like Molly was saying, getting all those things out the door was like really priority number 1, but then also the work doesn't stop just because we're shipping things. So there's like more stuff we're even trying to sneak in before we go on our like retreat next week and we're out for the holidays. So we've been like refining and wrapping up some of the details around some more configuration for putting pricing in Tern. Today for a hotel room or like a cruise cabin, when you put in something per room, which is really important for the room selections that we shipped last week, you can only do it per night right now, which we know is not how a lot of things are priced, especially when thinking about cruises. Like you can't just pick a few nights of that cruise. It's the whole thing. You got to like put in one price for the entire experience. So working on getting those details out, coming very soon, hopefully within the next couple of days. But yeah, stay tuned there. And then also working on improving some of the details around option blocks. So we've had option blocks, I think, since I joined Tern, like more than a year ago. But we continue to level them up as other experiences kind of build on top of them. And so we know that people are using option blocks in groups, and they want those things to be presented to clients when they're signing up in that full like self-service sign-up flow. We'll dive into a little bit more deep later. So we like wanted to wrap up some details there to get that out. But then we're also carrying those improvements over to regular trips. So the UI we built, the experience we built for selecting rooms is quite a bit nicer than how we had selections for options before. So we're like upgrading options to be a very similar experience as well. So lots of little details there on top of getting the webinar out this week.
And I'm going to go a little off script here, Brad, but like, yeah, I think one of the interesting things, I think a lot of people maybe who think about how you would design products and like kind of the process is like, okay, it's designed, or maybe it's like Molly kind of like writes this document on what the feature is, you design it, then it goes off to engineering. But kind of what you're describing there is like, actually, as these features are coming together, there's a lot of design work happening. There's a lot of product work. It's like quite quite not as linear maybe as people think. So for some of these features that shipped on Tuesday, Wednesday, like what does that kind of last mile design workflow look like for you?
Yeah, most of that is like, well, one, things we missed when designing it. We try so hard to like think of every possible scenario, how things could play out, where they might end up. But like there's so much surface area in Turn that there's just some things we don't think about. And so an engineer will be working on something and like, how do I handle this? And Molly and I look at each other, we're like, we don't have an answer to that. Like, let's come up with something now to like get this thing out the door. So that's kind of like one of the big pieces. And then there's other things that we have designed and like look nice in the mocks when you're looking at them, and engineers look at that, we're like, yeah, we can totally do that. And then they get into it and they're like, we can totally not do that in like the one day that we want to spend, to like get this out. Are there other things we can do? So sometimes it's like pivoting pretty close to the end of the project and seeing what else we could do to get the same outcome, but to save time so we could get it out to everyone faster.
Love that. Makes so much sense. And that kind of agility, right, I think is something that's really special about the just team that we have, right? And like how closely engineering and design and product are all working together to be like, yes, we could build it in this way, but it'll take us 2 weeks, and like the webinars in 2 days. So like if we make this slightly different tweak or compromise or change, then it's like way faster. And I think that's one of the cool things that enables Tern to just move so quickly, and to really figure out some of these big problems. I mean, you think about what Brad described in terms of option blocks. Option blocks were a huge thing for the industry. When we introduced that, it was like one of those like wow moments where advisors were like, I've been looking for a solution for this. And now you start to see kind of replicas of this like popping up. And we're now taking a step further, which is like, how do you create this like general kind of group itinerary and actually allow self-service basically booking with these option blocks? And it's like wildly complicated to figure out how to do that at scale, but being able to ship that in a couple of days is like pretty incredible. But we're off track from the weekend review. So webinar weeks are always like this combination of, I feel like it's when you finish like a race or something, right? You're like, in the last mile of the race, like you're exhausted and you're just like pushing to get it done. And then you do it and it's just like the flood of endorphins and you're like, yes, like that was so worth it. And I feel like that's webinar weeks at Tern. It has been such a sprint to get there. Obviously, like the whole R&D team just like grinding, seeing pull requests and changes happening on the weekends just to get ready for this. But then also there's like the outreach. And I think we sent something like, I think it was like 8,000 invitations or something to this. Like there's just this whole motion that goes into preparing for these webinars. And so there's a lot of prep there, getting the deck ready, rehearsing, figuring out the demo flows while products are being built. So it is like a beautifully chaotic week leading up to the webinar. So that was a lot of my time. But it was just been so cool. I mean, we'll do kind of a webinar recap here in a minute, but like I just pulled out a couple, like the chat, like we say at the beginning of our webinar, is one of our favorite things. It's so energizing. And I think one of the things I am most proud of about what the team has built at Tern is just the impact that this is having on like actual small business owners. So a couple of quotes I pulled out, some people saying this is seriously going to revolutionize how we get work done and empower us to scale our business. Saying that this is magical. I love Tern. It's revolutionized my whole business. And another one coming in being like, you've just altered the trajectory of my business in the best way. You have, of course, like more formal case studies that we've done, like with Walter saying this doubled the business because of Tern and the efficiencies that it create. And like, it's just really special to know that you're building a tool that's actually improving the economics of a small and medium-sized business, and being able to like work really hard and point to the fact that this like really does matter is pretty special. And so that's like the flood of endorphins after the webinar. It's just like, yes, like this is really working. So that was fun. And then it's also just been really cool. Yeah, I'm like, go ahead.
Just on that note, like I was literally reading the chat during the webinar and starting to get a little like teary. Some of it was so, and we'd like worked so hard to get all this out and then see. And I was like, oh my God, I have to present again. So I had to like stop even like looking at the chat, because it really just like means so much to us. Our entire engineering team, our whole company's on there. And like engineering constantly talks about like seeing the end to end of what they built come to life, and the reactions is like the highlight of the months working on it. So Yeah, just
Yeah.
thank you again to everyone who like brought the energy and the love. It was really special.
If I wasn't seeing these things coming in the chat during the webinar, I would have thought like we just made them up with AI. Like it's almost like so good, it's unbelievable. And I'm so skeptical of like, testimonials on products, but it's really fun to be like, wait, no, this is real. Like people actually say this, and that it makes you really feel the impact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of our engineers, Kayla, I loved what she said. She was like, it feels like it's a company all hands, like a company meeting where like you're talking about a bunch of new stuff you released and everyone's really excited because everyone's in the company, but it's even better. And it's just the community of users. Like it was like it's so true. It feels like a very tight knit community, even though we hit 1,000 synchronous. Like it was a big webinar, right?
I was like talking to people, and they're like, I was talking to somebody at like big companies, and they're like, we don't get 1,000 people. Like the number of people that attended this webinar live exceeds most conferences in the industry, right? Like there's maybe 2 or 3 conferences a year that exceed 1,000 people. Like, so it's just incredible. And we've had so many people watching the recording and engaging. Like there's clearly just so much excitement about what we're building, and we're just grateful for the community, for all of you that are listening to this. Like it is really cool to be able to build something, to get your feedback real time, and to actually see it make a difference. Like that's what makes work meaningful, I think. And it's pretty cool to have that opportunity. One other thing I'll highlight, it's also just been really cool. Everyone met Jade last week. Like she's going on, I think, week 2. And already just having like such a big impact. She just shipped her first Turn and Learn. So if you're looking for groups Turn and Learn, that went live today. And we'll continue to add to that as these additional features come out. And then, Jade in the new year will be taking kind of a whole, kind of fresh look at how do we think about education? How do we think about onboarding? How do we think about implementation? To really make it easy for you to learn the Tern platform and to really take advantage of it. And so we're really excited about kind of all of those different pieces. And so it's going to be good. It's been a really good week. And maybe kind of jumping into webinar recap. I think it was just fun seeing how everything came together in this end-to-end flow. And Molly, you kind of were talking before we started recording about just like the different features here. You want to speak to that?
Is that Spark? Am I hearing Spark in the background?
Yeah, Megan just ran an errand, and so now she's like parking the car, and Spark is freaking out. So that was me kind of handing it over to you while Spark calms down here for a second. Spark is my dog.
You gotta highlight Spark because he made an appearance at the webinar. So like
that's true. Yeah, Spark was on the webinar.
Verbal appearance on the podcast.
So you can hear Spark in the background there, and she's watching the window with great dedication right now, waiting for her mom to come home. So.
And not a big dog, so the vigilance is maybe a little unfounded, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, she's got a big bark, but she weighs like 15 pounds, so not actually going to do much to protect us.
Yeah, so what I was kind of saying, which is so cool, is like when we started all of this, we had this like master plan of all the different building blocks of groups, and really all those building blocks built on all the foundations of Tern that we had, been hard at work building for the past few years. And so, we talked about, we'll start with the group folder, and then we'll layer on the itinerary, and then, we'll need to make room selection better. And I'm like forgetting a bunch of different pieces, but like, we had all of these different phases and chunks that we were shipping like as we went. And then sign up, which of course had to be at the very end because we needed all the foundations in place to do it, was like the last feature right before the webinar. Sign up forms, was another really important foundation. And so like to actually have it come together and work and like feel like a magical experience, I was like not surprised, but like it was, it was kind of the culmination of this like very, long, it felt even longer than 6 weeks, but like it was, we were shipping a feature every single week, and Sign Up brought that all together. So like you create your group trip, you set up your itinerary, you set up your sign up form, landing pages, like, and then the client just goes through all of the different things that we've shipped over the past month and a half. So I don't know, it was just really cool to see it all come together and how kind of seamlessly all of those building blocks worked. The missing piece that we really identified that we had to like really try to fit in before the webinar is that taking clients out into more of like a account creation flow just like broke the magic of it. And so Brad's going to talk about this more, but like we looked at that and we were like, oh my God, that's just going to ruin things if like people are having to be redirected out to a different feeling flow and like add a password. And so anyways, we were able to get that in too, which was really cool. So yeah, just taking a step back and seeing how it all fit together was definitely a highlight.
Yeah, I don't know if we
Brad,
talked about this on the.
Okay.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't know if we talked about this before, but a few weeks before the webinar, I was actually like feeling quite defeated about groups. I was like, oh, like it's taking too long. We had to cut so many things. Like, hopefully people like this. And then like, I had to remind myself of all the incredible stuff we built. And because I don't know, we like had even bigger dreams, of course, when we started, and we're hoping it was going to go even faster. But like, so cool to see it all come together. Like, even though it wasn't everything we wanted, like it's huge and like blowing people's minds already. So
Yeah,
and there's like so much room for
where
improvement. So I mean, like, we have so many big plans, right, that are coming soon. Go ahead, Molly.
no, there was a moment where we were looking at a roadmap. We were like, we are legitimately not going to get it out if we don't rearrange a few things. So, like, we just to give podcast listeners an inside look, like, we plan to do things like option block selection, which we'll talk about, which we're building now before. We plan to do optional add ons, which we're building in early January before. And then we sat down and we're like, well, T-minus 2 weeks and like the sign up isn't wired up end to end. So we were like, what can we cut that will not break the experience and we can layer on after? Got creative, worked with engineering and pivoted and actually just like really up until the wire, we're kind of cutting some of these things, rearranging all the puzzle pieces to make sure they could fit and create that magical experience. And then, as Brad said, there's a few other things that we're even trying to sneak in this week, before the holiday, to make it even better. So
I just think it's such a testament to the agility of the team, right? Like we've kind of been working towards this, and I'll echo what you were sharing earlier, Molly. Like I remember, I think we went to our first Canadian conference. I think it was like in March. And I remember like talking to just so many people who come up and they were like, hey, like, do you have groups? Do you have groups? Do you have groups? And we're like, not yet. Like the way that we think about groups is it's sort of the kind of last piece that sits on top of all these foundational elements. And if you don't have the foundational elements in place, then like you can't actually build this basically booking engine. Like we got to be careful with that word because it's not actually booking it with like the hotel and things. But if you think about creating a group experience and what we've built, it is basically a booking experience from the client perspective. Like they come in, they make their selections, they can add quantities, they can add their credit card details, and then they get this confirmation and itinerary like right away. Like that's booking in the eyes of a client. And so that's what we knew we wanted to build literally for a year plus. But if you do things out of order, which is so tempting because every single conference that I have been to, every single demo I do, it's like, do you have groups? Do you have groups? Ooh, don't have groups. Like we can't switch to have groups, right? It's so tempting to be like, well, let's just pull it forward. Like, let's just like do a half baked version of groups so we can check the box. But being able to have a team that is like resilient in the vision that we have and executing on it with an agility that's like really world class. Like the decisions that Molly made, like and like the team made, those are hard calls, right? It's easy now in retrospect to be like, yeah, like we're gonna like just rearrange things. Like it's actually like really tough. Like, will this work without it? So I think it's really cool. Another testament to the fact that like we shipped the last major building block of this group experience 18 hours before we launched it. Like
it was the evening before the webinar. Yeah.
And like talk about timing. Like that is insane when you think about what went into it. So, Brad, do you want to talk a little bit more about that kind of like account creation piece and just the flow? And like, I thought you did this actually internally where you demoed the experience before we made the update. And it was just like, everybody I think was like, yeah, we gotta fix this. But it also is like going to set the stage for addressing a lot of feedback on credit card auth that we've been getting. So you want to take a pass at kind of bringing that to life?
Yeah, and just to connect the dots there, like that, demoing for the team, this is what it would look like if we didn't do this versus this is what it would look like if we did, helps inform that, like, okay, do we need to do this before or after? Can we move these things around? So we're often doing that, like kind of designing two experiences, putting them both out there, and kind of asking the question of like, is it worth it? Do we need it? And in this case, we're like, yeah, we really do. And Molly alluded to this, but like the flow without it was to like, oh, I'm like excited about signing up for this trip. I'm like seeing the beautiful landing page. I've just put in all my details. And then I get hit with like, log in to continue. I go to like a completely separate page. And the next step's like, hey, go confirm your email. So I have to go to my email inbox, find like a random link, click on that, get taken back. Like, oh, what's your name? And like, well, I just gave you my, like, oh, are you kidding me? So that probably would have resulted in a lot of drop off. And we like want to make sure again that the landing page helps you sell, and the like sign up flow does not prevent people from like making that purchase, basically to get all the way to the end and make sure they're actually signed up for your trip. So always trying to streamline this, and this is like probably the first of many things we'll do to continue trying like streamline and make sure people go through the entire flow. But just to come back to it for a second, we've heard feedback around client sign up and sign in since I joined like a year ago. And one of the first projects I got to work on when I joined was around credit card authorization. And we knew then that like it was so important that we validated that this is a real person signing up and providing these credit card details. So advisors didn't get in a place where like they're accidentally using credit card information that they thought was shared by their client and really wasn't. And like there's lots of awkward things there that could happen. And so like we knew it was important to still have this verification, but there's a lot of like user experience things we could do to improve that. So I like looked at how a bunch of other tools were handling this, things that are known for having really high trust. Like actually some of the inspiration was from DocuSign, because they have a similar thing where like they need to be sure that it's you signing that thing with your electronic signature, but you're not taking through this whole like, oh, set up an account with DocuSign in order to, actually like sign whatever you're doing. And so looked at things like that very early on. We kind of had this idea in our head for a while of like, oh, we could just verify your email. Like it's as simple as that. We'll send you a quick code and we can like integrate that into the flow. And was really happy to hear engineering finally say like, actually, this would be pretty easy to start with just the group sign up form. We kind of like hadn't prioritized this for a while because it felt like maybe more work than than it was worth, or that like there were other things that were higher priority for the amount of work. But this really became the time where like we knew we had to do it. And now we have the foundations where we can like pull that into other parts of the experience where clients today still have to sign in with password.
And maybe just to emphasize the point you were mentioning around like the validation of who people being who they say they are, right? In most cases, we know advisors have a contact record of their client in Tern, and they send that credit card authorization to them via Tern, right? And so they like click on this email. The threat vector that we try and prevent or help protect against with the authentication is that if that link was sent maybe via text, or maybe their email is compromised, or it gets out, and they start to go through this credit card authorization flow via a generic form that anybody could have access to, then if I'm a hacker and I've stolen somebody's credit card, right, I could just put in any email or anything that I wanted, pretend to be that person. And if there's no validation that they actually are the person in control of that email account, that they are who they say they are, then you can start to authorize charges for a credit card that the person who filled out the form doesn't actually have the right to use, right? And so that's where this like kind of secondary check of being able to say like I did an identity validation on a known email, or in the future potentially a known phone number, helps with chargebacks and being able to say that. But obviously I think it's fair feedback that the way that we did that with a full account creation process is actually overkill for what you need. But I think what's really cool about this, and this was actually a question that we got emailed after the fact by somebody, where they're like, oh, okay, so it's just like two-factor auth, but it is actually creating an account for them, right? Yeah. So you want to speak to that? Maybe Molly, you want to take a first pass and then?
Yeah, so like we are still, sharing that they're agreeing to our terms and conditions and privacy policy, and an account will be created. And the magic there is that if they need to access things again, their credit card information can be saved. They'll still have to re-enter the CVV if it's past a certain amount of time, but they won't have to re-enter everything like their address. When we do things like improvements to the client portal, where they can actually keep things like passport up to date and that sort of thing, they can access those things via more of an account. And for things like flight status notifications and other things, having that account is powerful. It just felt very robust and like a major headache to get there, and you have to remember a password and all of that stuff. So we're still like allowing them to set a password if that's their preferred login method. But the goal will be that they won't have to do that, and they can still kind of have all the benefits of an account.
Best of both worlds. Maybe kind of transitioning a little bit from that, we at the end of the webinar kind of talked about the product roadmap a little bit for the first quarter of 2025, right? Continuing to invest in groups is going to be like a big part of that. And Brad, I thought ahead of the webinar, you had some really helpful framing and just like almost a mental model of like the types of trips that Tern does really well as of this moment in time. And then like improvements that will help us really be best in class for different types of trips. Like maybe bring that to life for folks listening, just on kind of how we're thinking about really leveling up this kind of like group type specific workflow.
Yeah. And this is definitely not inclusive of every type of group that's out there, but just like some categories that I've been thinking about. I think Tern is like the best thing out there if you're doing like a custom like itinerary, like an FIT basically for a group, where you're like, oh, I want to do like plan this tour and I want to like bring 10 20 people on it who we don't know each other, I don't know them, but I want to like promote it out. The itinerary builder, like the ability to put in all those details to present like this super cool interactive itinerary, supplement it with a landing page and start collecting those signups is great. And also those tours are often ones where there's like fewer options. Maybe you don't have as many optional add-ons. It's like the group is all doing the same things together for that whole tour. And so it's like super streamlined for that. And like that itinerary really helps you stand out. You could still offer room options today, even within that, if you wanted to offer upgrades at like individual places you're stopping, things like that. The next bucket that I think we're like 99% of the way there is group cruises. Like the cruise library integration is killer for like how easy it is to just be like, oh yeah, I want to plan this group cruise, in the future. I know which one it is. Drag it into the itinerary. We like pull all of the room information for you. We even pull the images in. Of course, they like live at the like overall like lodging item level, but like in the future, we want to like tie them closer to the room level. And that is like pretty much, I feel like it could take you like maybe a half hour to like set up a group cruise trip in Tern, which is wild. Like the amount of time people have spent in the past, like putting together all the landing page stuff, trying to make your itinerary look good on a landing page and like figure it all out. It's like, it just works. Like just pull it in from Tern. All of the ship details are there. Like it's incredible. We've said it before. We'll say it again. We need to be able to price those rooms not per night, and like within the next couple of weeks, if not like literally today, it'll be there. And like Tern will be the like, I don't know why you'd use any other platform. And I'm not a salesperson, I don't talk like this, but like I'm blown away with how easy it is. So that says a lot.
I gotta interject there. Like literally, usually when I talk like that, Brad's like, "Ooh, I think you might be overselling a little bit." But like, so if Brad's doing this, then it's like, it's good.
Yeah. So that's the next bucket. I think the one that we still have some room to grow, especially based on the feedback, is more around like destination weddings, things at like an all-inclusive resort where the dates are a little more flexible. Like that we know will need some additional functionality for, where folks could say like, okay, I'm not just signing up, but I'm signing up and saying, oh, I want to like come in on this date and leave on this date, and different folks could pick different date ranges. Like that'll be something we need to better support. For now, you could kind of have a standard set of dates and then like put something in the sign up form that's like, if you want, to arrive earlier or later, let us know. And then you still have that flexibility on the individual itinerary level to make those changes for folks. So like still probably a huge improvement over what people might have been doing before, but we can make that even better. One more thing to say about cruises, maybe I did oversell a little bit. We know the occupancy rate piece is going to be important. So like most people we've talked with groups have like, they promote the double occupancy rate. And so like, that's what we're expecting folks to do in Tern for now too, and like label things as such. But to make it even better, we will provide ways to like set, if it's one person, here's the price per person. If it's two people, like input those scales and things like child rates too. So there's some more work to do there. That'll apply to cruises, probably also some of these like all-inclusive types of trips.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good recap. I think the other bucket that we just know there's a larger gap on today is if you are needing to collect those trip funds directly to then pay out suppliers with like a single payment method. So that's something we are, in talks with a partner to support that. But more to come in the new year. We've already gotten some really cool interest on our wait list. So if you have not signed up for our waitlist, we have a survey that we send out that's linked to from our group's roadmap help center article. But yeah, that's another one where you could still collect those payments outside of Tern, but if you're looking for a single streamlined platform that allows you to also collect trip funds, sit tight because we're working on it. And yeah, I think the other thing I just wanted to mention, it's like really important and great to celebrate like what we built so far, but like don't worry, we are listening so closely to all of the feedback. Like literally during the webinar, you should have seen our Slack channel of like screenshots of all of the constructive feedback or areas of frustration that we weren't solving yet. And like we will be taking a step back during the offsite and everything, but like we are itching to solve all of these problems. Like we're fired up. It's always like, okay, 2 minutes to be proud of what you shipped, and then like here are the 50 things we need to build, and we know that we're not even close to done with like all the things that people really want to see. So while we're incredibly proud of what we shipped, and it's just a huge step forward in so many ways, like we've got those things like right at the top of our list that we're hearing most often, and we'll continue to listen and learn all throughout the next few quarters, specifically around groups.
I think that's so important. And you see this in the Facebook group, and it's kind of funny comparing people that have been with Tern since the beginning of 2024. A lot of people have even been with Tern since 2023. And like you just see the way they show up to these like events is like different because they understand that this is the starting point, and Tern is going to ship updates and improvements based on feedback at light speed compared to anybody else in the industry, right? Like that's really what I think our superpower is like we put something out there, we listen, we learn, and then we improve it. And we do that very, very quickly so that I guarantee you the group's product that exists today is going to look like, it's incredible, but it's going to look like Child's Play in April when we look back at it and be like, wow, I can't believe we didn't have all these features, right? Like, so plus that idea of like, this is just the beginning, and like we are going to, and this is true for everything in the product. But it's funny comparing those people who like have seen that, we've built that trust, we've built that, like they just know that this is going to get so much better and this is the worst that it will ever be, even though it's really good today. And you compare that to people who like sign up for Tern, they're used to the other, kind of platforms in the market, which are like, oh, like we'll listen to your feedback and like maybe make an update in 24 months, right? And like the anxiety that they bring to the Facebook group is like, this is just like never going to happen. They don't understand. It's like, no, we got it. Like, just trust us. Like, we will make it better. We are listening. We have a million different sources of information. We're reading your Facebook post and we will act on it. So very excited about all that. And there's a lot more that we could talk about in terms of like things we want to do, but maybe transitioning, we've mentioned it a couple times. We're going into kind of a special couple weeks, I think, here at Tern. December generally is like a slower month in the travel industry. And I think we've reversed that trend a little bit with like, the group's launch and the webinar and a lot of the kind of excitement. So I'll share two things. One, like if you're friends or colleagues with somebody who's been thinking about Tern, we are updating our pricing to kind of reflect everything that we've added this year. So prices will change on December 17th. Anybody who signs up before December 17th will get the current pricing. If you're a current user, which I know most of you are, your pricing will not change. But we will be updating pricing kind of moving forward on December 17th. So tell your friends, now's a great time to sign up. It's the kind of best deal that they'll get. And of course, referral codes, all that stuff still applies. So good to know there. The second thing is we are heading out for our annual retreat next week. So we are flying the whole team into Molly and I's hometown, sort of, kind of in the suburbs, but like Detroit. We're bringing everybody to Detroit, kind of gathering downtown. And it's just going to be a really fun week of just connection. One of the things I'm kind of putting in my pre-read for the team is we talk all the time about how important relationships are in the travel industry. And the same is true within Tern, right? And for most of us, like a lot of us, we haven't met each other in person at all, right? Like if you're not on the customer facing team going to conferences, if you're on the engineering side, maybe you've met the engineers at an engineering conference, but like this is the one time a year we bring the whole team together. We get to see how tall people are, like, and just like make memories, have fun, build that trust and camaraderie. So I thought I'd just share a couple things that we're doing for the offsite. One, we want to make sure that we are still providing support to all of you. And so every day we're actually going to be kicking off with a full company support session to make sure that we're doing our best to respond to every support ticket that's come in. And so we'll be pairing engineers with customer facing people to like really get through that and to help engineers understand what are we supporting users with, and to help support understand when they need help from an engineer, what does it require them to do? And so this kind of neat kind of team overlap, I think, is going to be really special. It does mean that support response team times will be probably a little bit longer than usual. We're still going to try and stay on top of it, but it's quite the investment to bring everyone together. And we want to make sure that we really are maximizing those relationships. And it's hard to do that if everybody is staring at the support queue. So we will be monitoring for urgent tickets. So if there's something really time sensitive, please note that in your message. But expect that response times may be closer to 24 hours than our normal kind of hour or two. So I wanted to flag that. But then we're also going to do a lot of fun things. We're going to do some planning for 2025. We're going to be doing some guest speakers that'll be coming, which is going to be really special. We're going to be doing a hackathon, which for those of you that may remember last year, the hackathon is what led to cool things like the Tern mobile app. So it'll be fun to see what comes out of that. So it's going to be really fun. Molly, Brad, what are you looking forward to about the week?
Oh gosh, everything you just listed. I mostly
took it all.
People. I think like it's wild to me how many folks on the team I've never met in real life, and just like I think honestly, your working relationship changes when you've actually like seen somebody as a human and not just like as another box on Zoom. So that's really what I'm looking forward to most.
Same. And just like I spent a lot of time working from home and, very pregnant with like a 1.5-year-old. So just getting out of the house, eating some good food, hanging with the team, actually working out of an office. Like it's just going to be wild for me. So I'm very excited about that.
We're excited to get Molly out of the house. And obviously with Molly's due date imminent here, we're like, well, we'll just fly the whole team to Detroit instead of them missing the fun. So really looking forward to just having everyone together. It's going to be special. And then we go into a holiday break because of the way that kind of Christmas and New Year's fall. We said, this team works so hard throughout the year. It's very common for me to see engineers pushing up code on the weekends, like, support people jumping in. Like this team, I just think we have an incredibly talented team. And I think we also just like outwork anybody else in this space. And so we're giving them the whole week between that kind of Christmas, New Year's time off to like recharge, spend time with family, travel. We got people that are kind of going to be traveling. And so Katie, Brian, and I will be doing support. So with kind of for a couple hours each day. So again, be patient with me if we're a little slower during the holidays to respond. But again, if there's anything urgent, please just flag that for us so we know to grab that. So I think we kind of talked about week ahead. Anything else that we should be thinking about, or we want to leave people with?
Maybe we just talk about, I think it's going to be kind of a special podcast the week after.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like we'll kind of give some insight into how the offsite went, maybe some fun hackathon projects. We might answer questions, like anything you guys,
Yeah, Brad, this was your idea. So I'm going to total audible here. What are we doing next week?
I think next week it's going to be like just a fun time, a little year. Wow. End of year, just like hang out, more informal than we already are, if that's possible, but also like more engaging. If you're a listener, if you've been a listener and you want to like ask us some questions, we can answer them, and like, yeah, we'll just have a good time. Hopefully it'll be fun. And if it's not, we're not doing a podcast next week, and you'll never hear how it went.
Wait, Brad, are you going to be in your parents' basement?
I will be at my parents' house. Yeah, we'll see if the lights stay on.
Oh, that is amazing. I still think we need that shirt, like the Tern shirt with like the "Mom, I'm podcasting." Like I think that would be like that's just got to happen. So yeah, next week.
Designer to design that for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find somebody else. Yeah. So next week, fun, festive kind of podcast. We'll do a reflection on 2024. We'll answer any questions you have. So drop them into either the comments on YouTube, send me an email, david@tern.travel, any other way that you want to communicate with us. Like, just get us your questions. We're open books, happy to talk about anything, whether it's building a software company, plans for Tern in 2025, like anything. We're open books. So we will see you then. Thank you, as always, for tuning in, and have a fantastic week, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.